friends. I just pressed the let's go live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up. All across the fruited plain of the internet, before we go ahead and get started, got to make sure the tubes are connecting themselves, lest we be bumbling. Oh, hey, everybody. Hey, let's go through the show. And it's not even working, which has happened here before. All right, so it's working. Let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Govea. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Donald Trump and his indictment saga. He posted that he wants to be indicted again, and I absolutely love this reframe. It is brilliant. One more indictment will really ensure my election, is what he says. Well, guess what? Another one's going to be coming. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. We've got the documents that came out from the court, including the summons, which was returned. We'll just take a look at it. Very short, single-page document before we poke around and take a look at some reaction after the arraignment occurred. We've got Joy Reid, who's talking about the demographic reality now that Trump has Judge Chutkan, who is on the bench. We also have a clip from McCarthy saying, this is all very interesting timing, how this continues to just fall. Joe Biden gets in trouble, bad news for Joe, and all of a sudden we wake up and Donald Trump has another problem. He's been indicted again or something is happening. Now, there was an interesting piece here about the Secret Service. And of course, we know as a former president, even if Trump is convicted, what's going to happen with him? Is the Secret Service going to allow him to be put into custody? Unlikely. And so I want to go through this. The takeaway being that the likelihood of prison is low, just probably not something that we're going to see, which of course is good news. So we'll go through that. Trump spoke after the arraignment, and Jim Jordan is saying that he's basically just getting stronger. This is not hurting him at all. Every time he gets an indictment or there's some problem, he just pops back up, polls go up. And so we'll go through that and hear from Jim. Then we'll turn our attention over to what's happening with the Democrats. They want to see this trial publicized, and so do I. But they actually drafted a letter on this. Little Adam Schiff, who has been censured, by the way. Did you remember that? Sometimes I forget about that. Not that many people in American history have been censured in the House of Representatives, but certainly he has. What a loser. So he and a bunch of other Democrats sent a letter over to the Judicial Conference Secretary, and they're saying that they want this trial televised. And we're asking ourselves, that's very interesting. Why are they so animated on the Trump trial? I mean, they've already had several Trump trials, impeachment 1, impeachment 2. Then they had the J6 trials with Liz Cheney and crying Adam Kinzinger. And now they want this trial publicized too. And first of all, I'm okay with all federal trials being publicized. I'd like to see more of it. But the Democrats are very, very interested in this. They want all of America to see it because this is their opportunity, especially in D.C., to rub Trump's nose in it yet again. And they know their judge is going to make this like the Coliseum for him. So we'll go through that. We've got a clip from Stinky Eric Swalwell, who, has a weird relationship with Fang Fang. And he's saying that if Trump is not convicted, if Trump is reelected, end of democracy. Sorry, it's over because of these guys, because Trump might win. If America votes for Trump, democracy is over. So it's just a strange, things are tough for him. He probably has a low amount of oxygen in the room wherever he's talking. So we got Bennie Thompson as well, says no one is above the law, which is a convenient talking point, even though the president is literally above the law, has the opinion clause, has the pardon power, has all sorts of other provisions and powers that I think are relevant in these cases, including presidential immunity. But we also have a clip from MSNBC. All of this is about a campaign. That's why we've got 4 indictments in 1 year. Election year, or in other words, the indictments are going to be carrying through election year. They start when election season starts so that they'll climax right as the election season comes to the peak. And so they're saying that if Trump is not convicted here, they might actually have to do other campaigning. They might have to organize and actually get involved in some of this stuff. And so we'll go through that. And then finally, we'll take a look at some of the highlights from the Devon Archer transcript. We have him coming out with a very big statement today saying that the idea that Joe Biden didn't know about any of this corruption is categorically false, right? Joe Biden knew that these were business meetings. He knew what Hunter was doing. He knew that Hunter had no qualifications, and he was making phone calls and showing up to dinners to further the family business, the family brand at the expense of America. So we've got a clip from him. He did a full interview with Tucker. We also had Just the News broke out some texts that they were able to gather. This one showing that while he was VP, they were trying to collude with the Chinese. We have a clip from CBS's Catherine Herridge and says that Dan Goldman lied to us. When we go through the transcript, which we'll hit some of the highlights from the Devon Archer transcripts, but Dan Goldman came out and said that Devon Archer said that he was only selling the illusion of access, but those didn't come out of Devon Archer's mouth. Those came out of Goldman's mouth. And so not very honest from him. He was the spinster, the spin master. And so as you can see, my friends, we've got some serious business to attend to today. And we love it if you joined us over at our community, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we have a lot of fun. We do member-only morning streams. We do Saturday shows, and we hit the Trump docket when we don't talk about it here. We go through the presidential calendar, check out what Congress is up to, and have a lot of fun over there with our amazing community friends. And of course, you can join up on YouTube as well, get access to all the same stuff. We just ask you join us on Telegram for our members-only after party, which is what we do every day after the show. Also, our brand new website is a great place to get access to all the case materials, all the PDFs, all the video links, everything that you see us go through here. If you want to access it, you can just go to robertgovea.com, sign up to get the daily newsletter, which will give you access to the mind map, literally what you see on the screen. We also have the reports feature, which is now available. So all the segments we do get turned into reports. And so if you want to just check out what the latest is, this is the great place to do it. It's all of our content right here, robertgovea.com. Just click reports, and you can actually read the articles now if you want to read something rather than watch something. So check that out, my friends, and join up over at robertgovea.com. We'd love to see you there. And of course, we also want to make sure that we're all healthy and fortified and well, because we know things out there, there's a lot of bad food out there and bad chemicals, and we want to be healthy. And we all want to lose some of those leftover pounds that are still floating around out there, But look, how sick are you, though, of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? We've all been there. We've all tried them, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating healthy, especially 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You just do that, just try it. The weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, I know, not a fan. And fruit goes bad. And who's got time to prepare that every day? It's a lot. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula. Very specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product, because proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you walk into your doctor's office and he says, "Whoa, you look incredible. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." And you're going to say, "I know what I did. I went to fieldofgreens.com. I entered in code Robert when I checked out, and I saved 15% when I loaded up my cart with all the goodies." And we remember that the vegetables want to be eaten. This is real organic superfood. It tastes great going down. You can even mix it with some sparkling water, shake it up in a shaker, make sure the shaker doesn't explode on you. Just have direct experience with that. But it tastes good. It's almost like a little smoothie. So check them out, fieldofgreens.com, 15% off with code Robert. All right. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes on the day. On this lovely, lovely Friday. Here we go. We've got Donald Trump has been indicted 3 times, but that's not enough. He says, "Indict me again, why don't you?" If these things are just meaningless pieces of paper, if every time we get a new indictment, we read through it and we say, well, this is interesting, because it feels like this is the exact same conduct that the Democratic Party's been doing for the last 5 decades. Why are you prosecuting Trump now? Feels like it's very partisan, very political. Classified documents, we've got that on both ends. People contesting elections, we've got that on both sides. It's the same story. And so it's like the boy who cried wolf. The Democrats have been screaming at us that Trump is this big insurrectionist going to take out America. And then they don't even charge him with seditious conspiracy. And they don't even request bond. It's embarrassing. They just let him waltz on out of there. But Trump is taking this in stride, laughing about it, as he should. He says, you know, I need one more indictment to ensure my election. Posted this on Truth Social. Absolutely love it. Because why not? Just keep them coming. Every time they indict him, it's like idiots. Again, another one, another one, another one. And it's so obvious and transparent now that when this is happening in election season, it's because they have no campaign. This is their strategy. And so today we'll take a look at the summons, which was entered, executed, and returned. We've got clips from McCarthy and an analysis on why Donald Trump is unlikely to actually serve any time in prison. They just want to say he's been convicted. They want to put him on house arrest or do something like that. But prison for a president that has had Secret Service protection and is guaranteed it by law, unless they do something like remove that, which I wouldn't put it past them. But let's check in at the docket and see what is happening on court. We've got this one filed on August 4th. We have another lawyer appears to be entering the game. Pro hoc vice. This just dropped fresh out of the oven, my friends. This one says, Philza Pavillon Esquire, an attorney, in the case of Trump, now moves pro hoc vice to be counsel for Donald Trump, new lawyer. This motion is supported by her declaration and certificate of good standing. She's an active member of the bar in Illinois and Florida, multiple districts in Illinois and Florida. She's being sponsored by Trump's other lawyer, John Lauro. And then we'll take a look here. Says, I've never been disciplined. I have not been admitted within the last 2 years. I don't engage in the practice of law. Signed all of this off on 24th of July. We have another statement. She's in good standing. It's okay. So Trump has another lawyer who is submitting a notice of appearance, and we'll see. Certainly the judge will, in all likelihood, accept that, and he'll have another player. Now, this is the minute order that came out officially on the court record. Says a status conference is now going to be scheduled August 28th, 10 a.m. We knew that. The court waives the requirement for Trump to appear, so he can phone in on this. And this is the one with Judge Chutkan. So she's not even requiring him to be back on that hearing. It is hereby ordered that Trump shall file any motion for excluding time from speedy trial, and the government shall file any opposition to that. So if Trump wants to include the time, remember when we talk about speedy trial and times in criminal law, the government has to bring the case within a certain period of time. We've got statute of limitations that say they have to file charges before a certain period of time. Once it is filed, then they've got to bring the trial under a certain period of time. They can't just delay indefinitely. And so when somebody's asking for a continuance or a postponement, it's like the clock starts against the other side. Almost like in a game of chess, you see people, even if you don't play, you've seen the movies where they click the clock and the clock starts counting against the other side. It's kind of like that. And so Trump is going to say, well, I don't think this time should count against us. Maybe he might make that argument, or maybe not. And the government has the opportunity to respond. And it's not it's only the time from the arraignment up until the next status conference, whether to include that in the calculation of speedy time or not. Judge says it is further ordered that by August 10th, the government shall file a brief proposing a trial date and providing an estimate of the time required for the government's case in chief during the trial. So government, tell me how much time you need to present your case to a jury, and when can we start? Then by August 17th, Trump has to respond, also proposing a trial date, and very similarly, how much time do you need at trial? Now, what we can probably expect is a very similar parallel to what we saw in Florida. Remember, very similar thing happened here. Jack Smith said, we can get this trial done by December. Trump's people responded and said, no, December's far too long. How about we just don't set a trial date, which is also very abnormal. And then the judge returned and scheduled a trial date. So it'll probably be something like that. And the judge in the Florida case set a trial date in May. I still don't believe that's going to happen. Now that we have another co-defendant in that case, it's going to postpone that past the other election, I would imagine. And I'm going to guess the same thing happens here. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to ask for an earlier trial date. what a mess. We've got 4 different indictments and we're jumping all these different trial dates. It's just outstanding. So here, August 3rd, we had the actual arraignment. This was in front of Mokshila Upadhyay, and the plea of not guilty was entered and the informational summons was returned. So it sounds like the government already made an oral motion for a speedy trial back during the arraignment. So they want this thing to happen very quickly. Trump is going to respond and say the opposite of that. Now, this was just an oral motion. I'd like to have seen that motion, and maybe they'll supplement that. The government also says the judge ordered the government to produce all the exculpatory evidence pursuant to Brady, all the Brady materials. If you don't do it in a timely manner, there may be sanctions, including the exclusion of evidence, adverse jury instructions, and dismissal of charges. Now, this is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, they charged Trump criminally, and they didn't really charge him with a lot of the conduct on January 6th, right? I mean, they were very smart about that. So, like, for example, my argument would be that some exculpatory material here would be 50 plus feds in the crowd on January 6th. Because obviously, if the feds enabled or contributed to the riots, that would be exculpatory for Trump. But I think what the judge will say is, well, he wasn't really charged with that physical conduct. He was charged with the statements. And so he doesn't have access to that exculpatory information. It's outside the scope. So we're going to have a lot of battles about this. All the exculpatory evidence, in my opinion, is from every single agency, every single state, because he was the president. He was kind of the, any interface at every level that talked about 2020 or January 6th, anything is exculpatory. And I mean, it's the whole federal government. So how can they possibly comply with that? I don't know. Now, they did issue the summons and they returned it. I guess my point is they're not going to comply with it. All right. They're going to cut it off. They're going to say, Trump, you don't have an indefinite request. You just can't keep fishing, is what they're going to say. This is a fishing expedition and he wants stuff from all of these agencies. It's not relevant. Just like they did with the Proud Boys, just like they did with the Oath Keepers. So the summons has been returned, and let's pull this one up. This is the filing that was originally sent to Trump, summonsing him to court so that he would appear. And it is 1 page, not a long document. We see it scanned into the record. U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, United States of America, against Donald Trump. Assigned to Judge Tanya Sue Chutkin. Indictment. Says, hey, Trump, you've been summoned to appear before a district court based on the following document filed with the in court, the indictment, the one that we read through. Please appear, D.C. District Court, room 22A, 4 p.m. August 3rd. We know that the offense is briefly described as follows. We've got the 4 charges: conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction or attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. So it's the thought to obstruct and the plan to obstruct and then the actual obstruction, along with conspiracy against rights. Nuts. So we see Judge Mokshila Upadhyay is going to be assigned the case. Oh, no, that is the magistrate judge. She did the arraignment. The case is going to go to Judge Chutkin. And then on 8/1, all executed. Signed off here. Executed and returned. I declare under penalty of perjury. Signed off on by the U.S. Marshal and the process server. All entered now onto the court record. So not a lot there, but certainly interesting to see. So in reaction to this, we've got people like Joy Reid who are very excited, saying, oh, now Trump's finally going to get it. Now he's finally in front of a judge who's not a white guy. Wait till this comes down.
They oppose that venue for many reasons. The demographics of it are interesting. This judge name, I believe this magistrate judge is Mokshila Upadhyay, or Upadhyay. I might be pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah, I think you botched that one.
Woman of color. The judge he will be facing in the trial, Jamaican-born woman of color. He seems to be facing sort of demographic reality, legal reality, and, situational reality. He is.
Yeah, he's in D.C. now. It's like 92% Democrats. And man, they've been waiting for this day for a long time. Even Nancy Pelosi says, I've been waiting for this day. So I think she kind of botched that name. Here,
I believe this magistrate judge is Mokshila Upadhyaya, or Upadhyay. I might be pronouncing it wrong. A woman of color.
I think it's Upadhyay. Now let's go through. We have it on the record. I think it's Mokshila Upadhyay. Now let's go through it. Let's hear.
Judge Mokshila Upadhyay.
Upadhyay. Yeah. One more time.
Judge Mokshila Upadhyay.
Upadhyay. Yeah. So, yeah, she botched it pretty bigly there. All right. Well, we'll see. Now they're excited about it. 92% Democrats. Judges flipping out about the January 6th so-called riot. And then reporters were telling us the judges were packing into the courtroom because they all wanted to glance at Trump. But Kev over in the House of Representatives says, this is very interesting. Maybe there's a reason why we didn't get a more substantive indictment. Maybe the reason we don't have seditious conspiracy or any other charges is because they'll come and bring those back later in a superseding indictment. And maybe they rush this indictment, one, to beat Fani Willis, the biggest Fani attorney general in Georgia, and two, because they needed to change the narrative because Joe Biden is getting some very bad news from Devon Archer. Here's Kev.
Why didn't Garland? He seemed like he was going to do nothing about this for the first 2 years. It seems as though every time Trump goes higher in the poll, he gets a new indictment. It seems to me, after you learn of the real dealings behind the Bidens, the next day he gets indicted.
Yeah, strange.
Anytime there's new information, the federal government just seems to have a two-tier system.
Yeah, you're right about that, Kev. So maybe you should just keep talking about it and something will happen magically. So we have another report. A lot of people asking, what are they going to do about this? Are they going to put him in prison? Are they going to lock him up? I think that they would like to do that. And I mean that genuinely. I think that these people, they are so deluded that if they don't get this done, there's going to be a big contingent of their people that are very upset about it. So we've got this article. It says that, wow, there's a lot of just absolute garbage on this page. Let's see if we can clear this up a little bit. Yeah. All right, so here it says, if convicted of any of the 3 criminal cases he's now facing, Trump may be able to influence whether he goes to prison and what his stay there looks like. Why? Secret Service. Presidents since 1965 have been afforded lifetime protection. Since then, only Nixon has agreed to waive it. But unless he follows Nixon's example, which of course that would not happen, Trump could force politically and logistically complex questions over whether officials should detail agents to protect a former American president behind bars. Whether they should leave it to prison authorities to keep him safe or some type of home confinement. Now, I think these people, like the people who are writing this article and going through this game, I think they're kind of like role-playing in their minds or something, that, that it would ever get this far. Saying, could Trump face prison? Theoretically, yes. Practically, no. Right? That's the answer. Judge, this came over from Chuck Rosenberg, a former top federal prosecutor and counsel to then FBI Director Comey. Rosenberg served briefly head of DEA in the Trump administration. He said the president had condoned police misconduct when saying they should smash their heads when they're loading them into the vehicles. Now, Trump is facing, but here's what he said. He says, any federal district judge ought to understand it raises enormous and unprecedented logistical issues if he's incarcerated. All right, probation, fines, community service, home confinement are all the alternatives. But he's facing 3 separate criminal cases. They technically come with the possibility of decades in prison. Manny McCord, another one who acted as assistant attorney general for Obama, said Trump, and this presents unique challenges, no kidding. Ensuring some penalty for a former president under Secret Service detail would require extensive discussions and potential accommodations. Said because it would be a pretty enormous burden on our prison system to have to incarcerate Donald Trump. Idiots. That's why we don't do this stuff. The question is an open one at the Secret Service. Asked whether a former president who does not waive protection can be incarcerated, the agency said, the Secret Service does not have a comment or response, only because there is no such policy or procedure that currently exists. You're kidding. We won't have any further comment, they added on this. So how do you imprison him? There is no precedent for this. They need 24/7 protection. It's just like a joke. All right, it reminds me of like a, like, it's a little bit too self-indulgent. We're not going to continue to read it. This is like a little bit too self-indulgent for these authors. They're like writing this like a fantasy novel, almost a little bit, masturbatory kind of a thing. So we'll just leave that alone. So, but you get the point, right? There are serious logistical issues on this. It's why we don't do this stuff. And now we're asking what we already believe to be a corrupt, partisan government to lawfully imprison the leader of half the country. Are you out of your minds, idiots? So Trump now is speaking about this, and he, as per usual, really colors this up a bit for us. He tells us how disgusting DC has become in his absence.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very sad day for America, and it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent.
And he's right about that. So short clip from Trump. And the takeaway on a lot of this from Jim Jordan is that this is making Trump stronger.
I do think the end result, the takeaway is I think this just strengthens, just hardens the support for President Trump and frankly expands it. I think Dana was mentioned earlier in the show that, you look at the poll numbers earlier in the week. I think it's 54-17 in the Republican primary. But more importantly, he's dead even with Joe Biden in the New York Times poll. So my gut tells me that's what the New York Times is saying. It's probably better for President Trump in another poll. And this, I think, only, again, hardens his support, expands his support because the country gets it. And I think the reason that's happening is so much of the country is sick of this nonstop attack, this ridiculous attack on President Trump for 7 years now. And they're tired of this elite attitude in D.C. that says, oh, we're better than everyone else. There's a different set of rules. And I think people in flyover country, hillbillies in Ohio or Iowa or Oklahoma, they're so sick of it. We're so sick of it. We're saying we're going to support President Trump. I think that's the takeaway. I think that's the result of all this.
Trump becomes the symbol of a broken, corrupt government because you can see what the government is doing. They just keep punching and slicing against one man, Donald Trump. And he just keeps fighting forward. And they have tried many times to sideline him. Not going to happen. Trump says, go ahead, indict me again. What do I care? See you in the primaries. And he fights on. Now, we have the Democrats responding to all of this. Democrats now demand that the Trump trial be televised so that all of us can see it because they want to rub Trump's nose in this case in their most favored jurisdiction, of course, the DC courts. They've set up a little Coliseum type of Roman gladiator battle situation where they can just throw the J6ers to the lions and Trump will be a part of this onslaught from the Democrats. And we know that in federal trials, we don't get to see what's happening inside. No audio visual broadcasting, no live streaming is allowed. But Democrats are now saying, we haven't had enough trials that we've lost against Trump. We tried impeachment 1, didn't work. We got egg on our faces there. We tried impeachment 2, that didn't work. We tried to crush Trump with 7 or 8 different January 6th so-called hearings to try to dissuade him from running and try to shatter the brand. None of that has happened. They had new indictment 1, new indictment 2, new indictment 3, and we're going to have an indictment 4 out of Georgia. And they just want to see it. They want us to see it all because they don't have a campaign. They don't have any vision. They don't have any future plan for America, or at least with Joe Biden. And they have to take out their political opponents instead in order to win. So now this is Representative Adam Schiff. He's calling on the Judicial Conference to allow the broadcasting of the court proceedings. And look who signed off on this thing. Adam Schiff, Fishing Bennie Thompson, and others. They called on the Judicial Conference to authorize the live broadcasting of court proceedings in the case of USA versus Trump. They say the current policy of the Judicial Conference permits judges to authorize broadcasting, televising, recording, or photographing certain criminal proceedings. The letter was signed by a bunch of people, and it's not a long one. Let's take a look at it here. This letter sent August 3rd, Congress of the United States of America, going to the Honorable Roslyn Mouskopf over at the Judicial Conference at the United States Courts Administrative Office. Little Adam Schiff, who has been censured, by the way, we should put an asterisk next to his name because he's been censured. So we'll just make that here. We'll just call this censured because he forgets to mark that down from time to time. And it's just important that we recognize that for all to see. So just make sure, that's very clear that Adam Schiff has been censured by Congress, a validly elected, legitimate Congress censured Adam Schiff. So he signed it. Oh, look who else signed it. Hank Johnson. Guam is going to capsize. That guy. We've also got Bennie Thompson, who was on the January 6th illegally constituted select committee. And we have Gerald Connolly, Jasmine Crockett, Eleanor Holmes, Stephen Cohen, Lloyd Doggett, Glenn Ivey, Dan Goldman, that guy who lied to us about Devon Archer, and all of these other people who you've never even heard of, don't even know who. Oh, Jamie Raskin. Yeah, we know Jamie Raskin too. Prison Mike. We got Mike Quigley. We've got Pramila Jayapal. Look at all these Democrats. Zoe Lofgren, Mary Gay's on here. We got Greg Stanton, Sheila Jackson Lee. They all want to see it, man. For them, this is like, like a UFC fight or something. They're like, we have to see this. Please publicize it. We're going to have pay-per-view over at our house where, weird things are going to happen after the show. So this is the letter. It says, Dear Judge Mouskopf, we, censured Adam Schiff and my fellow Democrats, are writing to request the Judicial Conference explicitly authorize the broadcasting of court proceedings in the case of United States of America versus Trump. It is imperative that the conference ensures timely access to accurate and reliable information surrounding these cases and all of their proceedings, giving the extraordinary national importance to our democratic institutions and the need for transparency. Now, I've got a lot of questions about this. Since we're talking about January 6th, since we're talking about insurrection and all of those things, how much transparency do you think they'll afford to us? Can we see all of the J6 footage, for example? Can we see all of the analysis, all of the emails, all of the conversations, notes, recorded documents about the 2020 election and all of those investigations that took place? I'm very doubtful about that. Now, he says, as the policy-making body for the federal courts, the Judicial Conference has historically supported increased transparency and public access to the court's activities. Given the historic nature of the charges brought forth in these cases, it's hard to imagine a more powerful circumstance for televised proceedings. If the public is to fully accept the outcome, which we won't anyways, I mean, you can broadcast it. We don't, it's a DC court. We've already seen what they've done to all of the other J6ers. Broadcasting it is not going to make us say, well, that's great. I guess that's a just outcome. The whole thing's corrupt from the very beginning. But he wants us to be able to, them to be able to sell it. He knows if this is broadcast, then the media will really do the rest of the dirty work for him. It will be vitally important for it to witness, as directly as possible, how the trials are conducted, the strength of the evidence adduced, and the credibility of the witnesses. He says, we urge the conference to take additional steps, including live broadcasting, to ensure the facts of this case are brought forward, unfiltered, to the public. Sincerely, censured Adam Schiff, who, let's not forget, has been censured. Like one of 3 people. Embarrassing. So this would be curious. I would like to see it publicized. I think that we would see the bias on display when we looked at some of these other trials and we could watch the remember, we get to see things that the jurors don't get to see. And the judges kept out gobs of evidence. And we would have a free-for-all here. I have to build a team out, man, to clip out all of the stuff and just go hog wild on exposing what is happening. And I think if people could see what's happening in the DC courts, there would be a lot more outrage about it, which is probably why they're not going to publicize it, because if they publicize this one, we're going to start asking that they publicize the others, and then we'll get to see what's really going on in these federal courts. And they don't want us to see that. Why didn't they ask for publicized proceedings for, like, let's say, Ghislaine Maxwell? Curious. Donald Trump, though, they're open on that one. This is the Eric Swalwell, that guy who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy. He is saying that if Trump is reelected, if he is not convicted, then we are going to lose America as we know it.
Do you find anything reading this indictment that you wish you had access to when you made the case to impeach Donald Trump?
We had a couple weeks to put that case together, and we had a pretty compelling case because Donald Trump, in plain sight, said this was going to be a wild day and fired up that mob.
Is that criminal?
But the number of people that told the special counsel that Donald Trump and the people around him knew that what they were saying was false, that fires me up more than anything, is that this also feels a bit like a grift. It's not about anyone but Donald Trump. And the tweet today that, he's getting arrested so others don't have to get arrested. This is entirely about Donald Trump wanting to hold on to power in an election that he got smoked in, and then wanting to use his campaign to raise money for his legal fees. This is entirely about Donald Trump and nobody else.
So they're just dogpiling right now. They're very excited about it. They know, a lot of their strategies have some oomph to them. They are filing tons of lawsuits civilly. He's got what's going to amount to 4 prosecutions all over the place, and it costs money, it costs time. But I don't think they have a lot of connection to the law. I mean, he says that other people told Trump something, and therefore that makes Trump a criminal? What? Because other people on the other side of that equation were telling Trump the opposite, and they were also licensed attorneys. But the DOJ made decisions on their own and just declared that one side was right, the other side was criminal. And now Eric Swalwell is shedding tears for democracy. We also have Bennie Thompson. We remember him. We don't know much about Bennie Thompson. He had one appearance in front of America reading scripts from a teleprompter during the January 6th Select Committee hearings. That's about the extent of what we've heard from him. Let's see how he does here. This might be impromptu speaking. Let's see.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask you, too, about the thought that there could be a trial of the former commander-in-chief not far from where you work every day in the U.S. Capitol, at that courthouse, which is the intersection of Pennsylvania Avenue and Constitution Avenue. What will that be like? What will that mean for our country?
Well, I think it's part of how we test our system of democracy. No one is above the law, not even the president of the United States.
Which is just not true. As we've talked about here, the president has the pardon power, so he could just literally pardon himself and other people, which kind of makes him above the law. He's the chief executive of the entire country. He has the opinion power, which is tucked in between the pardon power and the commander-in-chief power, which puts his power literally over Congress and their statutes. So he's literally above the congressional law. I mean, what law are these people talking about? Congress, because they passed U.S. code, which made certain things criminal. If those things are criminal and those criminal statutes conflict with the Constitution, he is literally above the law. It is the dumbest talking point that you'll hear.
It has nothing to do with the timing of the election. I believe that
no,
the
all four of
Department
them
of Justice
just dropped
looked at
right now.
A lot of our work and added it to their body of work and determined that something had gone amiss. And in presenting the evidence to a grand jury, obviously that grand jury agreed. I don't feel good about the fact that a former president of the United States is going on trial. But I do feel good that our system of democracy works in that if you are found guilty of any charge or if you are accused of it, you have your day in court. Donald Trump is no different. I'm convinced, based on our review of the facts, that, as you know, we made some recommendations that we think he did do some things wrong. But we were not a prosecutorial body. And that's why what you see with the special counsel is the logical step to determine ultimately whether or not Donald Trump is guilty.
Yeah, they were not a prosecutorial body. They just created the January 6th Select Committee, which was illegally constituted, didn't have the exact ratio of members that it was supposed to have according to House rules. And they had no adversarial proceedings. It was just a bunch of book reports from Liz Cheney, Raskin, and Kinzinger, reading from teleprompters with Liz Cheney. It was an embarrassing facade, but it's just talking points. I mean, I really don't even think that they understand the mechanics of what's happening here. But on MSNBC, I think they do. They know that this is the strategy. And this is some commentator over there saying, you know, if Trump is not convicted, if he's not arrested, if he is not legally removed from the field, we might have to organize. We might have to campaign. We might actually have to run like an election, which they don't want to do because they've got Joe Biden at the top of the ticket.
It's the grace of the individual to accept that defeat, to put the country first, but also they have their parties with them. Other leaders, whether it's Democrat or Republican alike, saying, look, it is time. The election's over. It's time to move on. We all have gone through the example about Nixon and Watergate, but it also means sometimes these presidential elections, at the end of these bitterly contested fights, still even the party said, OK, it's time to turn the page. Even in 2016, by that next morning, the Democrats were doing so. But are you seeing anything here that would suggest that there are other Republicans, real ones that matter, not just the occasional lonely voice? They're going to push the party and Donald Trump to move past this in the next election?
Yeah, it's still so hard to accept that. I mean, I thought after January 6th, when you saw McConnell speak, when you saw McCarthy speak, that was going to be the beginning of the leadership turning against him. And then somehow it's not happened. And it can't just be a few of them. And we got to figure out, when is that going to happen? When is it going to break? And maybe the more this thing becomes clear what was done, you've got to believe that rational thought will come back in the minds of some of these people. But if not, then it's going to take the overwhelming organization, just as you were talking about earlier, organizing the country at all the levels so that he cannot win that election. If the party will not depart from him, then he has to be defeated, and the party has to be defeated.
Amazing. So this is all they care about, right? It's not even about the prosecution, being above the law, ensuring justice. It's just, hey, if the Republican Party doesn't abandon this guy, we just keep indicting him. He just keeps getting stronger. So we might actually have to organize. And they're excited to put this on the major news so they can just keep hammering Trump over and over and over again. Impeachment 1, impeachment 2, indictment 1 through 4. Here we go. We'll see where it goes as we continue to cover, my friends. And thank you for liking this video and subscribing wherever it is you are watching this one. All right. And now, we've got one final segment on the show. Devon Archer testified, and his transcripts have now been released. We'll cover some of the highlights in them, but he also talked to Tucker Carlson, sat down with a full hour, and revealed that the idea that Joe Biden did not know about any of this stuff, that he wasn't aware of what was going on, is categorically false. We'll also see what some of the text messages look like from Hunter's business partner and check in with Catherine Herridge, who tells us Dan Goldman lied. But first, this is Devon. We'll read some of the transcripts. Here he was with Tucker explaining that the myth that Joe Biden was arm's length from this is total nonsense.
There's no corruption here at all. This is totally normal. Joe Biden had no role whatsoever in his son's business or knowledge of it. But
right.
That seems false.
Yeah, I think that's categorically false. I think that what the he was aware of Hunter's business. He met with Hunter's business partners. I mean, you found a letter that illustrates that he knew me.
And he's thanking you. He's thanking you for his efforts.
So I think that was, I think
your efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's not factually right.
Not factually right, categorically false.
False.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think that's categorically false. I think that he was aware of Hunter's business. He met with Hunter's business partners. I mean, you found a letter that illustrates that he knew me.
And he's thanking you. He's thanking you for his efforts.
So I think that was, I think
your efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's not factually right.
Yeah, so pretty clear what this all looks like. Now, before we read the transcripts, we've also got this report from Just the News. They say text messages were also given to the FBI. They say that the Chinese wanted the Biden family name to help acquire U.S. energy assets. Here's the story. Says Hunter struck a controversial deal in 2017, dating all the way back to 2015 when Joe was still VP. Here's a text. It comes from Hunter Biden's business partner, James Gilliar. James Gilliar texted business partner, future partner, Tony Bobulinski shortly after Hunter had been alerted to CEFC China Energy's overture and its wealthy leader, Ye Jingming. So this is a text message from a couple of those people. And here is what it looks like. Gilliar to Bobulinski. It says, there will be a deal. This is from James Gilliar. There will be a deal between one of the most prominent families from the U.S. and them constructed by me. I think this will be a great addition to their portfolios. It will give them a profile base in New York City, then LA, etc. For me, it's a no-brainer, but culturally they are different, but smart. So let's see. Any entry ticket is small to them, easier and better demographic than Arabs who are a little anti-US after Trump. This is December 24th, 2015, from James Gilliar to Tony Bobulinski, all pals of Hunter. The text messages that were obtained by Just the News provide fresh evidence the Biden family name and influence were key to foreign clients like the CEFC. Also corroborates Devon Archer's testimony that this was all about the brand. Now, let's see what the transcripts look like. And we've got some highlights that we want to hit as we go through this. And so you'll see there were a bunch of people there. We had a bunch of lawyers. We had Devon Archer show up, the Democratic staff, they're all announcing, and everybody is making sure that they're in their proper seats. Then Devon Archer is seated. And Congress tells him, hey, Devon, you know that witnesses who knowingly provide false testimony here can be charged with perjury. Do you understand that? He says, I do. And you can't tell half-truths either. You're required to provide truthful answers. Do you understand that, Devon? I do. Is there any reason you're unable to provide truthful answers? There is not. So we talk about the 2-hour rounds and we get into an opening statement. Devon, would you like to make a statement? Please go ahead. He says, yeah, I would like to say, and again, nothing formal, but I would like to thank, obviously, the senior officials here. Thanks for joining us. It's an honor for, to be part of this. And I appreciate, you letting me take the time to do, the only thing I'm going to do is just speak the truth. Answer as honestly and as completely as I can and want to just move through the process. Devon says, it's been a long decade. It's been a long decade. My 40s have been kind of, mired in fighting the government. So I want to be cooperative now, and maybe we can all be friends. So let's take it from there. But I'm an open book. So please let me know what you need to know, and I'll do my best. Now, the Democrats chime in, and there's a back and forth, so we'll fast forward through a lot of this and get into the good stuff. Now, they give us some background on how Devon Archer got connected with everybody and his background with Rosemont Seneca and all the time he was there at Burisma. How did he get onboarded? And we now are talking about the money. How much money is coming in after this entire process? He says, we pulled off a lot. It was pretty wild. But my main purpose was international expansion, which I think, in a very short time, I had exceptional execution. I got brought on here. I was doing all sorts of stuff. We were transporting equipment via sea and land through Ukraine into Kazakhstan. He said, it was pretty wild. We pulled a lot of stuff off. Question comes from Congress. Hey, Devon, the payments appear to be approximately $83,000 per month that were deposited from Burisma into Rosemont Seneca Bohai account from Burisma. 83 grand per month. Was that what you were to be paid, Devon? Was it $1 million per year? He says it was. So from a board perspective, it was $1 million per year on the board contracts, but which was again, it was more than, there's associated work. It wasn't me just sitting there and, going to board meetings, but there was a lot of work that was done. He says it was actually split. During my tenure, this other company, Tri Global, was an intro group. It was split 3 ways. I don't know. You know where it went after my time. But that's the sum total. Kind of a take home for, the company, excluding expenses, just gross was $666 per year. And then that obviously changed. I was, kicked off, or I was asked to resign from the board when I got into my next issue. They said, was Hunter Biden's agreement also that he would get $83,000 per month? Yes. From Burisma? Yes, that's what I'm saying. So $83,000 in 2 different accounts once a month, 666 annualized, divided by 3. A lot of money coming in. And now they're debating about questioning, and they get into this fight. Biggs, hey, and Goldman, arguing over depositions, blah, blah, blah. And we fast forward to another section. Now, Mr. Mondolfo is now back. He says, okay, now, Devon, I want to direct your attention to April 2014. Joe Biden is vice president. I'm going to show you exhibit number 2. He says, okay, sure. Now, this is an email. It states that it's from Robert Biden, who's Hunter Biden to you. Email goes to Devon Archer, dated April 12, 2014, with a subject line that says tomorrow. And I'd like to turn your attention to paragraph 18 on the second page. I'm going to read it. Devon says, yeah, sure, read it. Congress says, all right, so this is Hunter to you. The announcement of my guy's upcoming travels should be characterized as part of our advice and thinking. But what he will say and do is out of our hands. Okay? This is Hunter to Devon. He says the announcement of my guy's upcoming travels should be characterized as part of our advice and thinking. I'm telling this, we're basically billing for this because he's coming as part of us, part of me. But what he's saying will do is out of our hands. So there's value in the announcement. There's value in the idea that Hunter and Joe are now coming to Ukraine. In other words, it could be a really good thing, or it could end up creating too great an expectation that I'm going to fly my daddy over here. We need to temper expectations regarding that visit, okay? Don't tell them that they're going to go be able to meet him. But it's leverage with Joe showing up. Do you recall Hunter Biden referring to his dad as my guy? So who is my guy? Devon says, yes, I believe, yes, that's him. That's Joe Biden. That guy, not some other consultant. Okay, well, Devon, given that he's referring to his dad, the average person would refer to their dad as dad or father, or maybe there's another nickname. But many people would not refer to their dad as my guy. Why would he say that? So in reading this, can you tell me what you believe Hunter Biden was at when he was referring to his dad as the following? My guy's upcoming travel should be characterized as part of our advice and thinking. What does that mean? If you say it's my guy is daddy, what is that? And his lawyer says, you're asking him to, or another person says, you're asking him to speculate what someone else meant? He said, well, I'm asking what his interpretation of that was when Hunter was telling him this. He just said Hunter Biden told him that he used that phrase. So when he would use that phrase, what did you interpret that to mean, Devon? When he used the phrase, my guy. You want to know what that means? Yeah, I want to know what that means. Archer says, okay. Well, what I think, my speculation would be that he's saying that, he says, I can't guide my guy, I can't guide my father in what he's going to do on this trip, but let's get credit for it. I think that's what it's saying here. And we'll see where they go with this, but my question would be, why is he saying it my guy versus dad? It's because he's trying to hide the identity of that person. He says, well, let me reframe the question. If he's counsel, why would he get credit for his dad going to Ukraine? Why would he get credit? Well, what kind of credit was Hunter trying to get? He says, well, I'm speculating. I think he was getting, and Schwartz chimes in, says, he said at the beginning, don't speculate. If you don't know, you don't know. And Archer says, well, he was getting paid a lot of money. And I think, he wanted to show value. He wanted to show value, which is bringing daddy to Ukraine. And was that part of the value of him bringing his dad to Ukraine? He said, well, I think in here it's clear that he's not bringing his dad, but he's saying, I'm going to get credit for it. But when you say get credit, Archer says, well, he's not, he was not determining, he wasn't setting his dad's schedule to bring him to Ukraine, I don't think. Right, but when his dad's traveling to Ukraine, he's trying to have the Burisma officials recognize that he should get the credit. He, being Hunter, should get the credit for dad traveling to Ukraine, right? Would you agree with that? I would say that that's what that says. And if that comes accurately, that's what he's saying. I think it's pretty obvious. And what do you think is obvious about it? He said, again, I can't speculate because I don't know if the email, I'm just reading the email. But you've had other conversations with Hunter. You were his business partner for a long time, right? Uh-huh. Did he talk about how bringing his dad either to Ukraine or using his dad as vice president would add value in the eyes of Burisma? Yeah. And how would that come up? And Archer says, I just think it's pretty obvious if you're the son of the vice president. Well, he's asking about specific conversations. And he says, any specific conversations? No. We would not talk specifically about, he would not be so overt, obviously. Like these people are not sending text messages. Hey, Dad, it's Hunter. Hey, wondering if you can leverage $1 billion to fire a Ukrainian prosecutor called Viktor Shokin. And Joe Biden's like, yeah, I'm going to be there next week anyways. And I'm talking about anti-corruption. So it sounds like a great deal. Never going to show up that way because they're not idiots. And I think that's, that's being generous though. I get it. I think that's another obvious point that he would not say, okay, we're going to, we're going to use my dad for this overtly. But I think he would, given the brand, I think he would look to, to get leverage from it. Well, what kind of leverage was he getting by using his dad? I think it's more defensive, defensive leverage, that the value is there in his work. They say, all right, well, I want to show you another exhibit, which is about a payment. Okay. We just talked about this, so I'm not going to rehash it. But this email happens in April, where Hunter talks about adding value. And then on April 15th, 2014, there's the first payment that comes in to Rosemont, Seneca, Bohai. Hunter talks about adding value. A couple days later, first payment comes in. A lot of money comes in too. Questioning continues. Andy Biggs chimes in, says, hey, Mr. Archer, when you talk about the Biden family, and I'm sorry to cut in here, I just want to get a clarification from you. You're not talking about Dr. Jill, are you? Or anybody else? You're talking about Joe Biden. Is that fair to say? Archer says, yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah, it's Joe Biden, not anybody else. Listen, I think he says, I don't think about it as, Joe directly, but it's fair. That's fair to say. Obviously, that brought the most value to the brand. Points him out by name directly. Big says, thank you. Now, Congress says, I want to go back to another point you said earlier, Devon. You said Hunter didn't overtly talk about how he would use his, and if I'm mischaracterizing this or getting it incorrect, please correct me, but that he wouldn't use overtly that he's going to use his father's name or his father's name in order to add value that he could get from others. So how did you know that that's one of the ways that Hunter Biden was like meeting with officials from Burisma or getting access to officials with Burisma or getting a job? How did you know that? Weird question. He says that Hunter was adding value. His value that he was adding was part of, as you said, the family. So what's your basis for knowing that it was part of the family? My basis for knowing that? Well, I think there are particular, objectives that Burisma was trying to accomplish. And a lot of it was about opening doors, globally in DC. And I think that, that was the, and then obviously having those doors opened, sent the right signals for Burisma to carry on its business and be successful. So what he's saying here is Hunter made the call to Dad. Dad got the thing done. That's how we know it happened. Obviously, that all backfired, terribly for them. I think Mikola is now hiding in Cyprus right now. But yeah, I think, how did I know? I mean, it's a lot. It's how this town works as an outsider looking in. Saying the only way that any of this could get done is through Dad. Hunter doesn't have any position on anything at all. So they say, Devon, and did you commonly have board dinners? Yeah. And who would attend the board dinners from your company? Well, generally everyone from the smaller subset. It wasn't limited, but it would be, I don't remember the restaurant or the table, but I know we stayed at the Burj Khalifa, the sail-looking structure in Dubai. We had dinner there. And after dinner, did you and Hunter go out for drinks? We did not. We did not go out for drinks. I met him at the Four Seasons, is where he stayed. What happened there? We had coffee. I don't know if we had drinks, but we met at the Four Seasons. Did Hunter during that time ever get a call from Mykola Zlochevsky and Vadim Pozharsky, the Ukrainian officials? Archer says, yeah, Vadim and they both joined us at the Four Seasons. Why did they join you? It was, basically after all, that was normal course. Like after all, we kind of spent the 3 days together. During that, I'll say after dinner at the Four Seasons, did Mykola or Vadim ask Hunter Biden to make any phone calls? Yes, though I was not a party to that phone call. What was the request? Archer says, the request was, I think they were getting pressure. And they requested Hunter, help with some of that pressure. What kind of pressure were they facing? Government pressure on their, government pressure from Ukrainian government investigations into Mykola, etc. But it wasn't like a specific request. It was just, we were sitting there at the Four Seasons having, coffee. And there was Mykola, and there was one of the managers of the Four Seasons who managed the property, Vadim. So it wasn't like it was not like a specific meeting. When you say pressure, at this time, were you aware that Viktor Shokin was investigating Burisma? He says, to the best, I vaguely, whether it was Shokin, there was a lot of pressure. There were several pressure issues. It was kind of a theme at Burisma. There was capital tied up in London, 23 million pounds. There was a U.S. visa denied, a Mexico visa denied. So Shokin wasn't specifically on my radar. And he says, it was like whack-a-mole. So Jim Jordan comes in and he says, all right. So the request that came in from Mykola and Vadim to Biden, or if you said it was to you, the request to get help from whom? From whom? Who's going to help you? Archer says the request, basically the request is like, can DC help? But there were not, I'm not going to, there were not, it wasn't like, there weren't specific, can the big guy help? It was always this amorphous, can we get help in DC? Jim Jordan says the request was help from the United States government to deal with the pressure they were under from their prosecutor, and that entailed freezing the assets of a London bank and other things that were going on in Ukraine? Archer says correct. Jordan says, okay. When you say DC help, like we could use DC help, what did you interpret that to mean? He said, well, I'm still learning about it, but it seems like really a lot like at the end of the day of lobbying, soft lobbying, firm lobbying help. But there was constant pressure on them, various providers. So why do you think they were asking Biden for DC help? If they had, I'm assuming what you're saying is they had some kind of lobbying group on retainer, right? Yeah. So why do you think they were asking Hunter for DC help? Why? What did you take away from that? Archer says, well, he was a lobbyist and an expert, and obviously he carried, a very powerful name. So I think that's what they were asking for, the name. They also, there was a firm called Blue Star Strategies that was hired to be kind of I don't know if they were a lobbying firm or just strategic advisory. It's still unclear what the difference is, but that's part of the mix. But yeah, it was a high pressure environment. There was a lot of requests for help. And what did Hunter Biden do after he was given that request? Archer says, listen, I did not hear this phone call, but he called his dad. Oh, so that's the DC call. They were asking Hunter for help in DC. What did Hunter do after he was given the request for help in DC? Archer, listen, I didn't hear this phone call, but he called his dad. Oh, very curious. How do you know that, Devon? Because I think Vadim told me, but again, it's unclear. I just know that there was a call that happened there and I was not privy to it. Called his daddy. What did Vladimir tell you about the call? He said just that we called DC, but he didn't, again, it's not like there was not, oh, we've got our problem solved kind of a, revelation. I was not on that side of the equation and kind of working on the lobbying side. When Vadim told you this, where were you? I was, basically what? Then we drove back to the hotel I was staying at. Who's we? Me, Vadim, Mikola. Was it during that time that Vadim told you that Hunter had called VP Biden at the time? It would have been at some point there or after, maybe the next day. Again, we spent, on a board trip where you travel with people, we spent 3 days together, so I can't say the exact time. He told you he expressly called his father or that he called DC. Now, Archer corrects that. He says DC. DC. So very curious. When he told you this, did you confront Hunter? No, I wouldn't have done that. When they, being Burisma, are facing pressure, and then Hunter calls the vice president, that would cause some serious alarm bells for influence peddling, conflicts of interest. Archer says right. Hunter at this time is acting as the corporate governance, right? But he's calling his father? I think that it's even more reason that I was left out of these, says Devon. Black box DC types. I was working on the ground to build the business. The narrative that was spun to me, quite frankly, that Shokin was under control and he had no way to verify the narrative. Now we see this. Have you ever been privy to Hunter Biden calling his father around other business investors or foreign nationals who Hunter or you may have been trying to work with or were working with? Hunter calling daddy. with other business investors. Been around? Yes. Can you tell us about that? He says, you know, Hunter spoke to his dad every day, right? And so in certain circumstances, when you're in, you know, if his dad calls him at dinner and he picks up the phone, well, there's a conversation. And, the conversation is generally about the weather and, you know, what it's like in Norway or Paris or whatever he may be. But that happened. Are you aware of Hunter putting his, or having been told that Hunter Biden put his father on speakerphone during any of these interactions? Yes. Can you please tell us about that? He put him on speakerphone again occasionally. Specifics like, dinners occasionally. Can you tell us about those dinners? Yeah. I remember a dinner in Paris with a French energy company we were speaking to an advisor, and then we were speaking to, and it was really a Rosemont Seneca advisors type, kind of a pitch. And there was a talk, and he said that, we're at this restaurant in Paris, and he put him on speaker. And there were other people there. Who else was there? Hunter was there, Devon Archer, Eric Swalwell, and the executives from the French energy company. Amazing. Let me get the vice president on the phone. Hunter gets daddy on the phone. You remember the name of the company? I'm sure you could find it. Probably 2011, Very large French energy company that connects daddy. And so we'll fast forward a little bit further and see. I think I highlighted one final section on this. Maybe I didn't. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. So there was one final section here about the illusion of access. So we're going to fast forward down quite a ways. And this is where Dan Goldman is now asking questions. Dan Goldman is that lying Democrat that CBS Catherine Herridge is going to call out. Says the following. From Dan Goldman. In other words, you're saying that Hunter would take credit for his father's actions even though he had no role or influence in those actions, right? Devon says, well, he would take credit for them despite having no role in them or influence over them. Yeah. Is that fair? He says, yeah, I don't know. Based on what you knew. Well, based on what I knew, yes. Did Hunter ever tell you I can get my dad to change U.S. policy? No. Are you aware of Hunter ever asking his dad to change foreign policy? It's like, no, nobody's asking for that, right? Like he doesn't. No. Were you ever privy to any conversations between Hunter Biden and Joe in which they discussed how Joe Biden would take official actions on behalf of Hunter? No, of course not. So is it fair to say that Hunter was selling the illusion of access to his father? And this is where Devon Archer says, yes, the illusion of access. So when you talk about selling the brand, it's not about selling access to the father. It's about selling the illusion of access. Is that fair? He said, is that fair? I mean, yeah, I think that's almost fair. Almost fair. Why almost fair? Well, because there are touch points and there are contact points that I can't deny that happened. Okay? It's not just an illusion, Dan. There are touch points. There are contact points. But nothing of material was discussed. But I can't go on record saying that there was communications. You mean, yeah. Hello? And yeah, there were communications. And then he goes back. By touch points, you mean he talked to him a lot, right? And Bo died at one point. And he had issues with drugs and other issues. And so they stopped there for a minute. But what Dan Goldman did is he came out and he told us that that's something that Devon Archer ultimately said. And that's not true at all. And CBS Catherine Herridge calls him out.
Well, earlier this week, we just had to rely on the characterization from Republicans and Democrats about Devon Archer's testimony, but now we can see the full transcript. You'll recall that Democrat Congressman Dan Goldman said that Archer testified that it was the illusion of access to Joe Biden that Hunter Biden was offering to these clients. But in fact, when you look at the transcript, what you see is that phrase illusion of access is in Dan Goldman's question. It's actually not what Devon Archer testified to. He says, yes, but that's not quite fair. This was about showing that there was the signal that there's influence and access here.
And that's what they did. That was their modus operandi. They just had a nice little plausible deniability setup where they never had direct deposit from Burisma to Joe Biden. Hunter never said, Dad, can you change this or anything like that? They weren't dumb about it, but lo and behold, Burisma needs the prosecutor fired. The prosecutor gets fired. Hunter gets paid millions of dollars and the crime family marches on. But now Devon Archer is out exposing this. And of course, we will continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing wherever you are watching us. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We're going to leave it there. We covered some good ground today, including some of the Devon Archer transcripts and more of the Biden criminality, including his text messages from when he was a vice president. The Democrats want the Trump trial streamed because they don't like their candidate and they want to continue to propagandize the justice system after it has already been weaponized. We know stinky Eric Swalwell is concerned America is on a precipice. And Donald Trump says, go ahead and indict me again. Every time you do, I keep getting stronger. And we read through the summons. We heard from Joy Reid. We learned that the Secret Service is going to be playing a very important role. And the summons and the docket will continue to populate as we continue to cover. But now, my friends, let's hear from you and see what you have to say about all of this. Of course, before we jump into those comments, quick reminder to check out our brand new website, robertgovea.com, where you can sign up for our daily newsletter right here and never miss what we are doing here. We also have this reports section where you can catch the segments and read the summations of exactly what's going on at robertgovea.com. We'd love it if you checked it out, fresh out of the oven. So we also want to say what's up to our friends, including our friend Jeremiah. That was from this morning. We got this one in the house. What's up, K-Bean? Thanks for clipping for us. This one is from Dennis Petit. Says, in the next 6 months, we'll be at war with someone to bolster Biden's waning popularity. And yeah, that is going to be an interesting development. We're waiting for what the next big thing is going to be. What are they going to do? Good question. In order to distract us all over this next election. We got pickle jars for Hillary, says Google Obama. Oh, that was from this morning. We've got this one. Woman noun became a female adult human. Who is a female adult human, became a supporter. We're glad to see you, woman noun. Welcome aboard. We'll do our members only morning stream tomorrow. And I hope to see you there. Vientikis is reminding us to hit the like button. Thank you, V. And Curtis Bartle's in the house. Thank you, Curtis. 5 new membos coming in. We've got Lenny Malley, Pitch Lock. We got Barcaro, That Girl. We got Poem Paget, all courtesy of Curtis Bartle. 5 new membos. Thank you, Curtis, for inviting 5 people to join us. Our members, we'll see you tomorrow morning for our members only Saturday stream in the morning. Going to be a lot of fun. Voice of the People says, all right, so the New York City riots, because a streamer got arrested before giving away a PS5. How does AOC justify them doing this? Because they're hungry now. Well, I guess they're hungry for more video games or something. I saw that. It was like breaking as we were starting the show. Apparently they're upset about video games in New York City. I don't know what's going on. It's a strange affair. Thank you, Voice. And hey, I think Voice of the People might be doing a Devon Archer transcript read today. I think that's what Voice said. So if you're not already subscribed over there and you want more transcript reads, that's where you can go. KYM Langdon is a supporter. Welcome aboard, KYM. Glad that you joined us. Look at this real good puppy over there, too. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. And hey, if you're a member on YouTube, download the Telegram app. Get the Telegram link to our private community chat, which is posted in the community tab section on Locals. We got Substers here. Welcome, Subster. Welcome, Subster, in the house. Thank you, Subster. Hey, Rob, I made it. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you made it, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Subster, for the dono. 2012 Jameson says, what will it take for you to look up Counterman versus Colorado? It guys the 1917 espionage cases. Nobody else has brought it up or gone over it. Well, it's not going to take much. I think we've already reached the threshold. So I'll take a look at it. Or 2012, do you have my email? Maybe shoot me a link on that. I'd like to know what your take is on it. I mean, what do you think the consequence is? That Trump should not be charged? That it should be dismissed? I'm happy to look it up. I just, context is always good. But thanks for flagging it for me. I think we can certainly do that. No problem at all. We got Kimmy Joe says, have you looked into Jack Smith's tweets about Trump? They are absolute fascist. I actually have not. Did he drop some bad tweets? Well, I don't know. I would imagine. No, I have not seen them, Kimmy Joe, but that's fascinating. I think, didn't his wife work for something? Like there's some very close proximity. I think his wife works for the DNC or did something like close with them. There's some sort of connection there. There's some strange stuff, no doubt. We got this one from a bad poet says, get your interview skills up, Rob. Abba just went on Benny's show. You have a great audience. All she needs is the invitation. Oh, she's doing interviews now? All right, well, I guess I better start doing interviews. If I ever had a good motivator, that's the one. You guys just want to see me simp over Alina Abba for an hour? Is that what you want to see? It's not going to be a good interview. Gosh. Like, oh, gosh. Yeah. No, I know you're right about everything. Yes, Trump is innocent. Yeah. It would be, well, we could try it. We have this one. Hey, V is sending us something amazing. It got delivered. Oh, this afternoon. Oh, right before we started the show. Thank you, V. All right. That's going to be fun. We'll do an unboxing on that one next week. We got Dolphin Fan is the man, bringing in 5 more membos in the house. Thank you, Dolphin. We got One Nation Underground, Dr. No Name, we got Jamar, we got Sue's Mad, and we got Stink Eye joining us, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man in the house. Thank you, Dolphin. We also had Jentifer says, Robert Barnes claims double jeopardy applies as the Senate found him not guilty. Good news from the man. That's an interesting tactic. Yeah, saying the Senate already held a trial on him. Says Alan Dershowitz says that Smith lied to the grand jury when he omitted that Trump on J6 said to go peacefully into the Capitol. Says Smith should be indicted. This man really knows the law. Yeah, the thing about that is that, like, what is Merrick Garland going to indict Smith? I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, it's like malicious prosecute. It's called malicious prosecution or prosecutorial misconduct. But that would all go through the DC court. Like the jurisdiction is just rigged. But it's a good comment. And Jentifer, thanks for the donos over on Rumble. Says another one says, watch the show on rerun last night. Very pleased with all the details you gave. This is all blowing up in China Joe's face. It is slowly unraveling. And I know it's a little slow, and I know that sometimes we'd like to, see some accelerated activity. But we're on the long trajectory. We've got a long way until the votes start coming in. And if you really want to bring all of this stuff to the maximum climax, you probably want to do it right around the time they want Trump to go into trial. And it might, we might get there simultaneously. 2012 Jameson says MAGA needs to start using the courts too. I could not agree with you more. I've been screaming about this since 2020. Once we saw Mark Elias and all the lawsuits, I was like, where are the Republicans? And they lost big time. How did video of the trial work in the Johnny Depp trial? I have no idea. I didn't watch, I don't think, a minute of it. So I don't even know. But a lot of people did. And it was, I think, one of the most watched trials of all time. So could you imagine what Trump would be? Kelly R says, Democrat superstars, why do they not think their shenanigans look repulsive? Even if it went the other way, I'd be disgusted. Pico is doing great. Experienced the beach yesterday. Oh man, that's a puppy update from Kelly. Pico is a puppy, a watching the watchers puppy celebration. Doing great. Went to the beach yesterday. Man, that is so awesome. And yes, well, I think that they're just speaking to their audience, and their audience loves the shenanigans, and they exist in the same reality where everything that Trump does is the end of America. And so this is how they live. Look, I mean, if the Republicans were prosecuting somebody like 4 times and all of this was happening, I got to imagine I'd be like, all right, well, now when they do it, it's good. We all have to say, okay, I guess this is the new standard. If the Democrats are going to do it, we should do it back. But I would never be the one who wanted to shoot first on this one. You know, it's like in a fight, right? If a bully, you don't want to start a fight, but you have to end it. It's your responsibility to end it once it's happened. So shout out to Pico. Thank you, Kelly, for the lovely update. Yeah, we've got this from Learnstuck. Learnstuck, welcome. Lemstuck in the house. Welcome, Lemstuck. A new name on Locals. Amazing. Thanks for joining. Says, can we call Chuckins Chuckins like she chucking them J6 Americans in jail? She is chucking them. It's not funny, but she is chucking them in jail. She's giving them more serious penalties than even the government was asking for. And I think the other day, I don't know if you guys caught this. I don't know if you busted me or not, but I think I called her Judge Chutney. And I didn't intend to do that. I just couldn't remember what her name was. Yeah, I didn't intend to do that. It just slipped. Judge Chutney, you know. It's close. I don't know. I had chutney on the brain or something. We had Catherine Rex also says, Schiff makes my blood boil. He just needs to go. He'll be around a while. He's running for Senate now. A grand jury backed Bragg's evidence. Lost respect for the grand jury, Bragg, or the New York City, or all of them. Yeah, it was a lot. Hey, Rocky Water, thanks. Says, great week of coverage, Rob. Thanks as always. Thank you, Rocky. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining on Locals. Thanks for being always so generous. Glad that you're here. We have this one from Jameson. Says, it seems like I can see the Hatch Act violations. Yeah, the whole thing is, I mean, the whole DOJ is now a political branch prosecuting their opponents. We have this one from Silver Umbrella, joined up as a member. Amazing. We love our new members. Grab the Telegram link because we're not done yet. First Amendment here says Archer will also have to pay more than $15 million in forfeiture by himself and more than $43 million in restitution with his co-defendants in the case. Yeah, right. And he's also going to prison too. So my understanding is he's got a jail term coming up soon. We have this one came in from Jennifer Newman. Thanks, Jennifer. No question on this one, but this looks like, is that a robot getting a kiss by a duck? What a nice gif. Thank you, Jennifer, for that lovely dono and for that lovely gif. A Bad Poet says, let's start a GoFundMe asking Hunter to pardon Trump, asking money for Hunter money to pardon Trump. I don't think I'd trust Hunter with any amount of money. Not good. Who knows where it's going to end up. Rocky Water says this one, says, Archer says Burisma paid for doors to be open to be successful, but that obviously backfired, terrible for them all, and Mikola is currently hiding in Cyprus. Mandolfo moves in. I wish he pursued this line. I think it begs the question. Rocky says, if a client pays the brand tens of millions for business insurance, and then the whole thing collapses, might they feel upset with the brand or that they are owed a refund by the brand? They might be upset about it, but what are they going to do? Joe Biden is the president now. He's even more powerful than he was. He has the whole DOJ. He's got the whole military. Now, maybe they'll expose him. I mean, maybe we'll get more whistleblowers and they'll have the courage to pop up. But I mean, Gal Luft is on the run. We know Mikolo is, hiding in Cyprus. So will they speak out and bring all of this to light? I would be upset too if I was paying Hunter $1 billion, however much money, millions of dollars, and then my company went under. I'd be pretty upset about that. Hey, Beth Coddington. Oh, wait, this one comes in from Rocky. Another one from Rocky. Back to back. Thank you, Rocky. Says, I think one of the goals of Archer's performance was to propose the idea I had heard somewhere, can't remember from who, but no one in our group, but I had heard somewhere that firing Shokin would be harmful to Burisma because they had Shokin under control. Cover for Joe bragging about firing Shokin in that video from 2017-ish. Yeah, something to be concerned about with Devon Archer is when we listen to him, he kind of is a yes man. He kind of tells everybody what they want to hear. I've noticed that. He will even contradict himself sometimes and just say yes a lot to a lot of people. Some people are very agreeable just naturally. And if you can sense very agreeable people, then you can, maybe get them to agree with you. And he kind of agrees with everybody all the time. He agrees with Tucker. He agrees with the conservative congressman. He agrees with the Democratic congressman. Just kind of a go along, get along type of a guy. Probably very good at, greasing the skids on all of this foreign affairs. And I get concerned about that because he might, he could be poisoning the well, right? He could come out and be saying so many things that he becomes somebody who lacks credibility by being all over the map, right? It just impedes his credibility, but we'll see. So far, he's giving us a lot of the stuff that I think is credible and corroborates the other evidence that we can already see. Beth Coddington in the house, farmer's daughter, just sending love and hugs to my sweetums and his supporters. Thank you, Beth. And shout out to our farmer's daughter, our sweetums in the house. Thank you, Beth. We got this one from Catherine Rex says, there was a voicemail leak where Joe got confirmation that the prosecutor was indeed fired. If you don't have the information, I can send it on X. I don't have that. Have we seen that? I vaguely remember seeing that. Yeah. I think it's a phone call, right? It's a phone call voice recording, I believe. But Catherine, if you have it handy, I'd love to see it anyways. That'd be great. This one came in from Jameson. Says, yes, I can send the link, and it is a Kagan decision. It's a Kagan decision? Okay, yeah, thank you, 2012. I'll take a look at that one. Zach Nichols also brought this one in. What is this? Uncle Shane, 10 months. What does this say? I can't read it. It's a little grainy. Uncle Shane's been a member for 10 months, maybe? That's a fresh newborn, Uncle Shane. Man, I guess we do have a child together. It is true. It is true. I think that's what that was. Hey. Uh-oh. This is Trevelyan. Trevelyan Gale. Uh-oh. We got T. Gales here. Says, hey, Rob, got to jump ship. President Trump's about to speak. Thanks, T. Gale. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for the dono. And hopefully you enjoy President Trump. Make sure you come back and finish the show and see the super chat. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We got Michael Allen Hughes says Trump wanted to go to the Capitol, but his Secret Service wouldn't allow him. The argument that he didn't do anything goes out the window. Yeah, look, I don't know what they wanted him to do. They did the same thing with George Bush back on 9/11. Remember when Michael Moore made that stupid movie that all the left loved? And he said, like, George Bush just sat there reading or something. You're like, well, what is he supposed to do? Like, go out there with a bazooka and blow off the terrorists out of the sky? Idiot. Same thing here. What do you want Trump to do? He didn't do exactly what Liz Cheney did, so that makes him illegal? No, we didn't elect Liz Cheney. We don't want her judgment. We want Trump's judgment. And he executed his judgment. You might disagree with it. Doesn't make it illegal. And so the didn't do anything thing is just another stupid talking point. Vivek's on PBD. Man, PBD was on with was on with Joe Rogan. It was a good show. John McGarvey is in the house. Thank you, John. And thank you, John. This is very nice of you. 5 membos for The Real Kittler, Brian D., Renee W., Carol B., Patient 6, all coming in courtesy of John McGarvey. And new membos, stick around because we're having our after party very soon. We got Jameson says, case is in your email now. Enjoy the read. Amazing. That was fast. Thank you, Jameson. I'll take a look at it after the show. This one from John Allen says, hi, Rob. Thank you for another great stream today. Even when I'm having a difficult day, your streams make my days better. Well, thanks, John. I'm sorry you had a tough day. And I'm glad you made it here. We try to have some fun. We try to have a good time and stay lively, and stay connected. John says, shout out to all the mods and the members that are helping on the donos. Currently, thanks to V, Zach, special shout out to McGarvey for his help, and to all the mods on YouTube and Rumble. Always appreciate you all. We love our mods here. We got the best mods, modding down the fort, memeing the place out for us, helping with the GIFs and the clips. We love our mods. And John Allen also helps a lot. So, John, thank you as well, in addition to the team. We've got an amazing one from Woodchip Bill. Says, here's a couple of bucks for present and past debt to the swear jar. That's good. Another honor system for Woodchip Bill. Yeah, and thanks for catching up on that. I hadn't noticed about that, Bill. I hadn't noticed any expletives coming from you, but I do appreciate it. Bubbalicious says, Bubbalicious in real life, no cap, extra bussin' Twitch grilling show tonight. Wow. Cedar plank salmon, grilled Parmesan crusted asparagus, and Texmati rice tonight at 8 p.m. Bubbalicious in real life on Twitch. Sounds pretty good. Cedar plank salmon's pretty good. I read a terrible article about salmon the other day, and about farmed salmon and about what they feed the salmon. And I'm like, you people, it kind of like made me think about it again. Farmed salmon and what they feed the salmon. I'm sure your salmon is not farm salmon. It's very healthy and full of nutrients, but got to be careful with the salmon out there because the fish maintain all the toxins better than other animals do. It just kind of resides in their fat. Anyway, I happen to love salmon. I happen to love asparagus, and I love rice and Parmesan and all the things. So sounds delicious. Shout out to Bubbalicious. Delicious Bubbalicious. All right, we got another one from Catherine Rex. Says the prosecutor has now talking against Joe. Oh, I see. In the clip from Catherine Rex, the prosecutor is now talking against Joe. So like Victor Shokin. Victor Shokin is now talking against Joe. I think he said he was poisoned or something. Ricky Sky says, if I published Ashley Biden's diary with a MAGA shower cap, could I be sued? Well, this is not legal advice. I think that if you do something with the diary, you could be raided. Didn't that happen to the Veritas guys? Be careful with the diary. You don't want to end up in the gulags out there. But thank you, Ricky Sky, for that one. With a MAGA shower cap, like you're going to sell a product, maybe? Sounds like an interesting product. Consult your lawyer. Yeah. Artistic license. You might be creating a new thing. A diary with a MAGA shower cap. I like it. Yeah, I see where you're going with this. That's right. Yes, because in Ashley Biden's diary, there's a shower story in the diary. I get it. Sorry, a little slow. It's a Friday. Yeah, I think she says in there. I get it. Yeah, all right. Consult your attorney on that one. For that one. We got, hey, Wells. Thanks, Wells. Wells Mortensen says, thanks for showing me the YouTube transcripts function the other day. How new is this? I now have to check every speech video for transcripts in it. It seems super helpful for names, authors, movies, book titles. Yeah, I love the transcript function. I go into YouTube and search for stuff all the time. And so thanks, Wells. Happy to share those tips with you. YouTube's great. You can find a lot of very good stuff on YouTube. And there's now like these AI services that will summarize a video for you. So you can actually just plug a video in and like it will actually, there's a transcript website that you can plug in the YouTube video and it will give you the full transcript. So if you just want to read it, you can. And it's good stuff. And so, my friends, that is it for us. Thank you so much for those very lovely donos from our friends on YouTube, on Rumble, on Locals. Let's say hello to Twitter before we go over to our members-only after party and wrap it up on this lovely Friday. Apparently, this is what's happening in New York right now on Twitter. That car probably deserves it. Yeah, kick it harder. Yeah, kick it. All right, so hopefully they feel good about whatever's going on over there, and I don't know, having a good time, I guess, in New York. Are they into that? Is that what they do over there? All right. Who's on Twitter? We got Vientikis. Yeah, that car is probably a bigot. Vientikis says, I prefer I prefer this word over the other word. It shows the impossible ways they have to bend themselves to make any of this work. Yeah, they got to contort themselves. V shared a link. James says, Rob, where do grand juries meet? Are they in a courthouse like the SDNY, which is built on top of a U.S. radium plant? So I don't know about the radium plant, but yeah, they're in courthouses. Fred says, Rob, I've spent over 700 in super chats in a year, and well deserved, but please don't show Joy Reid. I beg you. Please don't show Joy Reid. Feline Fun says it's odd for Trump to say he needs one more indictment to ensure his election. I don't like these indictments. I think he's being facetious. They're upsetting and worrisome. I have to wonder if he's asking us to read between the lines. Perhaps there is some sort of evidence that will ensure his election. Yeah, I think, look, these are serious, and I don't mean to make light of them, but they're also, as serious as they are becoming less effective every time they file a new one. So I think he's being jokey about it. They are worrisome. His lawyers are going to take it very seriously. Let's not forget that. He's got some very competent attorneys, and so they'll be representing him. I know it's a little frustrating to go through indictment after indictment after indictment, but part of this process is about exposing this. Like, we've got to see what these people are doing in order to wake other people up, to get agitated about what these people are doing. We got Hippy Dippy Cali Girl says, love me some Rob G. Love you back, Hippy Dippy. Raven Madness says, here's a letter from censured Shifty Shift. How did they get all their signatures? Aren't they on vacation? Well, they spring into action if it's about Trump. They just go hog wild and jump right into it. Normalcy, 1984 Normalcy says, did you see Blinken's condemnation today about Navalny? Says Navalny should be released. The irony. Gosh, what a great comment. They're screaming about other people being imprisoned, but not Trump. TJ King says, Rocky Waters made a good point. Rocky Waters made a good point. How many Hunter allies are in jail or hiding? Bob Yalinsky and Archer are witnesses against him, and they've been attacked. Who's left? Sherwin? Zolchevsky? Dark Brendan is a vengeful supervillain when crossed. Trump posted this on Truth, says, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. And that's going to be the new standard. Honestly, if Trump doesn't do that, it's like, well, the Republicans are going to just get steamrolled because the Democrats are playing for blood now. Mike NJ says, if Trump wins the primary and ends up close in a general, he should step aside and endorse Vivek. Polygen says, I think the Democrats want the Trump proceedings publicized to trigger another protest. Ooh. Then they can point to the angry citizens and see, we told you. Yeah, I was curious if they were going to try to do that with the arraignment, just incarcerating him, if they just locked him up right now. But they kind of wimped out on that. They said that they were going to prosecute him, and he was this mad insurrectionist, and that Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, and they were so dangerous we couldn't let them out. But the leader of the whole thing, they just let him walk right out. Jack Smith didn't even ask for anything. Pathetic. So, my friends, that is it for us on the day. Now, we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com and on Telegram for our YouTube members for our after party. And we would love to see you there. And let's see what else we've got. We had a couple other tips come in. says, I stand with Fred, no joy on Reid. Abba, on the other hand, is welcome for more. John Allen says, we skipped over a video, which I did on purpose. Thanks for telling me. We have Wells Mortensen says, about the signatures, can they use digital or is there some procedure for forcing them to sign in person? Wouldn't their interns have digital copies at ready as long as a trade is made? About the signatures, can they use digital or is there some procedure forcing them to sign in person? Oh, you mean for the Congress people? I'm not sure. Would their interns have digital copies? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they passed it all around. I don't know how they got that done. All right. And so that is it for us on the day, my friends. We are going to leave it there and we will come back on Monday to do it all again. But we're not done yet. We have our after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com where you can join us as we hang out for a bit longer. We've also got our friends at fieldofgreens.com where you can go and save 15% off with code Robert when you go to fieldofgreens.com and get your good stuff. Want to thank the mods and the meme smiths who mod down the fort for us. Our friend Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause in the house, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geostars, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek909, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and John McGarvey in the house. Big thanks to Geegum Geegum, Nathan NA10, and Sleepy Dog Lee, all hanging out with us, modding down the fort, and memeing the place up. Thank you for all that you do to help keep this show on the track. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com to hang out. Members, we'll be here tomorrow for our Saturday show. We'd love to see you there. But my friends, if we don't see you tomorrow, we will be back here on Monday to get into it all again. And of course, there will be a lot to attend to. In fact, I think we might have indictment number 4 tomorrow. We saw that in Georgia, Fani Willis was setting up shop, locking up the courthouse. So we'll expect that to come next week. And that will probably be it for the big ones on the indictments. And it will be busy. But my friends, I hope you have an amazing weekend. I hope you are able to unplug a little bit from some of this political madness going on. Hopefully get outside, spend some time with friends and families, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, do a fun project that's been laying around, kind of nagging at you, get rid of it, have a lot of fun, spend time with some loving people, and recharge those energy batteries because we're going to be back here next week to do it all again. And we need to get to it. And so, my friends, we will leave it right there. I hope to see you right back here on Monday to get into it so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.